Welcome to the Texas Women in Music podcast, where we celebrate extraordinary women who are shaping the vibrant music scene in Texas. Each episode, we dive into the stories and sounds of these talented artists, exploring their journeys, inspirations, and the unique flavors they bring to Texas music. From country and blues to indie and pop, we showcase the diverse talents and voices driving innovation and creativity in the Lone Star State. Join us as we spotlight these trailblazing women and their contributions to the rich musical heritage of Texas, one captivating conversation at a time. Welcome to the Texas Women in Music podcast. I'm your host, Shauna Rose, and each month our full access subscribers receive the opportunity to listen to interviews with women who are musicians, songwriters, producers, and industry professionals who are pushing boundaries and making waves in Texas. So whether you're a musician, a fan, or just curious about the women behind the sounds, you're in the right place. Holly Tucker, known as the Angel of Country Music, is proving that great things are worth the wait. Rising to fame on Season 4 of The Voice, she won the hearts of millions, earning a coveted 4-chair turn on Team Blake Shelton and finishing in the top 6 out of 40,000 auditioners. A Texas native with deep musical roots, Holly has been performing since childhood, releasing multiple albums and charting 8 singles on Texas radio. Her award-winning music, including Steel and You're Gonna Know My Name, has earned her accolades, including Female Vocalist of the Year from the Texas Country Music Association. With over 800 live performances across the U.S. and abroad, Holly has shared the stage with legends like Willie Nelson, Clint Black, and Randy Rogers Band. Holly's journey is driven by faith, perseverance, and an unshakable love for country music, proving she's here to stay. Please help me welcome Holly Tucker. So I guess let's get into it. What inspired you to pursue music?
You know, I grew up with a really musical family. So my parents were both singers and musicians, even before they had a family. And, music is kind of what brought them together. So naturally, when they had a family, they didn't ever quit music. And so I would watch my parents up on stage playing and singing for much of my young life. And, just really early on, I started singing. I started singing about the age of 3. And then got on stage for the very first time when I was 7. And that's when the bug kind of bit me. And I just knew that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And it's just kind of taken off from there. I've never stopped.
So who were your biggest musical influences as you started your journey?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to not mention my parents just because, they're incredible, in their own right. But I first, started singing in the church. And so I have a lot of gospel influence and, Christian CCM influence, worship music, that kind of thing. But I found my way to country music really early on. And I just, grew up back in the 90s. So there were so many great artists out of 90s country, including the females. I mean, like Martina McBride and Faith Hill and Sarah Evans and Jody Messina. I would say collectively, kind of as a whole, just the females of 90s country music really, really had an impact on me. And, listening to their songs and how they sang and how they performed. And it just really made me believe that one day maybe I could do that. And because we share a love for country music and the lyrics and just the whole thing. So I would say 90s country is one of my biggest influences.
Wasn't it the best country?
Yeah.
How has your background or upbringing shaped your unique sound?
So even today, as I songwrite and as I choose songs to put in my live show and how I change it up, including just to the way that I live, like my faith and country music for me, like they very much intersect. I don't have one without the other. And I wouldn't call myself a Christian only artist because I've always found myself called to trying to be a light in a dark world and, reach the unreached, maybe people that would not ever walk through the doors of a church, but they're going to walk through the doors of that bar. And, maybe they can see a little bit of the light of God in me. So that's been my biggest thing. That's what drives me. That's what motivates me. And that's really what my entire brand and sound is formed by.
That is so beautiful. Gosh, that's really beautiful because, you see all this stuff in mainstream that's the opposite. And then you're just trying to be this beacon of light to bring this great vibe to everybody. I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So, can you walk us through your songwriting process? How do you get there?
Yeah, so, people do it all different sorts of ways, but I find that I particularly thrive off of writing with other people. It's called co-writing, and I love doing that because I try to write with a lot of different kinds of people. I don't just stick with the same people every time. And so I'm always learning something from people that are better than me. As it says in the Bible, iron sharpens iron, and we sharpen each other. And songwriting for me has not ever really been something that is very natural. It's something that I've had to work at. I love writing just in general, like writing journals or short stories or anything like that. But songs are a craft. Like that is an art. And it's just hard for me to come up with lyrics on my own. I get stuck into thinking that it's not, good enough. It's not ready to move forward. And so then, I get kind of paralyzed. But that's where co-writing is such a magic for me because I can bounce ideas off of other people. And sometimes my ideas are great, sometimes they're not. But I learn every single time and I get better every single time. So that's kind of my process is I try to find people that are better than me at what I like to do and also kind of go along with my brand and my sound and then we create magic that just it's a little bit different every time, but it's always got that vein of faith and country music.
Yes, brainstorming is so fun. Yeah, it's great. And, a wise person has many mentors. So I
Yeah.
think you're very wise in doing that. I mean, why not? If you have the resources, why not? What topics do you usually write your songs about?
Well, I think like most artists, I try to pull from things that I've actually gone through, things that I want to, like messages that I want to speak to other people, and messages that have touched me in my life, and things that have helped me get through some hard situations. For me, a lot of my music is optimistic. It's on the happy side of things because I just am an optimistic person. I try to look at the good in every situation. And even if it's a hard thing, I try to see what I can learn from it. And so even in my sad songs, there's always some message of hope. And it's hard for me to write something that is super sad and just down in the dirt because I just don't want to stay there. That's not where I want to live, and that's not where I want other people to live too. I know that you've got to write your experiences, but I think it's important to put a smile on people's faces, and that's really just what I want to do more than anything. Is it goes back to being that light and just giving people hope and happiness, and feeling a little better maybe after they've heard something that I've done.
That's wonderful. Yeah, back to that beautiful part about you, Holly. Now, do you have any rituals or habits that help you stay creative?
Yeah, I go through kind of a roller coaster of creativity. I am really, really busy all the time. And that's just the nature of my life and the kind of things that I choose to do. I'm married and I also have, a full-time job, but I also do country music. So I wear many hats. And so creativity kind of comes and goes for me. Sometimes I'm more on fire than other times. And like right now, I've kind of been in a little bit of a rut. I haven't written anything new in a year or so, but I recently had a writing appointment and it sparked the fires again. So I'm getting all these ideas just come into my mind as I go about my day or as I hear things, as I have conversations with people, ideas are sparked and I just write them down as soon as I can. So, if I'm ever like in a rut and I need to be creative and I have to get myself in that space, I will usually go listen to other artists that have new music out that I haven't heard yet. And hearing new music, new lyrics, new melodies, that usually sparks something in my own mind. So that's kind of how I keep it rolling.
And that's just the beginning of Holly Tucker's incredible journey, from small town Texas stages to the bright lights of The Voice and beyond. But what happens next? How does she keep that fire burning in an industry that tests even the strongest? Stick around because in the next segment, we dive deeper into Holly's life after The Voice, the highs, the hurdles, and the heart behind her music. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back. In our first segment, we explored Holly Tucker's background and influences and about her creative process. Let's jump back in and hear more from Holly. So going to your performances in the past, what has been your most memorable?
Definitely my most memorable performance was on The Voice when I was on it on season 4 back in 2013. I cannot believe that was 12 years ago. That's crazy. But I got to sing How Great Thou Art in front of, there were 14 million people watching that night, and they all heard the gospel. And that song is just pure gospel. And I know I'm not a Christian artist, so to speak, but I really truly believe that God gave me that moment, and that's what He had me there for, because I have taken that moment with me on every single stage that I've been on since. In the 12 years since I've been on the show, I've ended almost every single show with How Great Thou Art. And not only does it remind me of that moment that I had on national television, but it just constantly touches people. And, I know that I'm the one singing it. I get that. But ultimately, like, it is God, it is His word. It's that song that just reminds people of, how much the Lord loves them. And that's exactly what I set out to do. So I can't ever forget that performance.
Now, speaking of live shows, how do you prepare for a live show?
Ooh, well, that's kind of different because, all of my shows are different. So sometimes I'll be just solo acoustic, just me and a guitar. Sometimes I'll be with a broken down band, which is like me on guitar and maybe another guitar and like a drum box, a cajon. And then other times I've got my full band. So I prepare all different sorts of ways for those. Typically it begins with, getting my set list ready for whatever particular venue that I'm going to, because I play all sorts of different venues as well. Sometimes I'll play smaller venues like restaurants or coffee shops or something like that. And then other times I'm on giant stages. And obviously you've got to prepare 2 totally different ways for that. So I try to think about what audience that I'm going to be speaking to, singing to, and, I try to cater my shows around that. Sometimes I know that I'm going into a show where people are going to be actually paying attention and listening more to the songwriting. And so I will choose my songs that I know are going to be a little bit deeper, a little bit more message oriented. And then other times I'm singing in a crowded bar where they just want to dance and drink. So I choose upbeat songs that have high energy and are really, really good and danceable. And, maybe throw in a few more cover songs so that they can have some familiar things. So that's kind of what it is for me.
Okay. Have you had any interesting or funny fan interactions? Like, you deal with all sorts of people, right? So you see all
Yeah.
sorts, I should say.
Yeah, man, there's been a lot. I one that always sticks out in my brain, and I don't know if I would necessarily call it funny. I mean, it's funny in a way now that,
In hindsight.
I'm on the other side of it and I know that everybody's okay. But I got to perform at Green Hall back in 2017. And it was my first time being on that stage as Holly Tucker with my own band and my own name. So I was very excited to be on that stage because it is a historic Texas stage. It's like the Grand Ole Opry of Texas, and everybody wants to play there. So I finally got my opportunity. I was opening for Curtis Grimes. He's another Texas artist in the scene. And we get there, through sound check, we go eat dinner, and we get back on the stage to get ready to do our show. And then we start into the first song. The place is crowded. It's going great. Like everybody's loving it. They're right by the stage, right up there with us. And then we start into the second song, and people are dancing on the dance floor. Well, in Green Hall, you know that dance floor is very, very old and not real smooth. It's very bumpy. So this cute little old couple, they had to be like 80 years old. They were in matching outfits and matching hats, and they were just the cutest thing. But they started dancing to my song, and she, the little lady, I don't know if she tripped over something or what happened, but she just fell onto the floor while they were mid spin, and she hit her head, and it knocked her out cold. So obviously, everybody rushes around her, and I'm in the middle of the song. So I tell my band, hey, let's come to a close. And so we ended the song a little bit early, and to try to give, the people a little bit of time to figure out what was going on with her. Is she okay? And they got an ambulance in there. And, that whole time I was freaking out. I was like, what do we do here? This is my debut here at Green Hall. So I just said, this is a situation where I'm not in control. So I got in the microphone and I said, hey, I know that none of us know what's happening right now, and this is a scary situation. So do y'all mind if I pray? And I prayed over the entire bar. And it was a really cool experience, just getting to do that, even in the uncertainty of what was happening. They ended up getting her out of the bar and getting her to the hospital. And later I heard that she's fine. But, it's kind of an ironic situation, my debut there at Green Hall, and I'm thinking it's going to be amazing and perfect. And, somebody gets hurt. So not exactly funny, but just memorable.
Yeah, definitely memorable.
Yeah.
How have you seen that the industry has changed since you started?
Well, I kind of started when it was, I think, already changed. And I say that because, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, CDs and, merch sales and all of that, that was still a huge thing. And artists were actually able to make a little bit of money and recoup their expenses from the record labels, for recording their albums. But then Spotify happened, and Spotify happened before I started releasing music, but it killed the way that artists made money before. And now it's almost like you're not an artist first. Like your job isn't to create music. Your job is to be an influencer on social media that also creates music.
Oh, man.
So that's very disappointing because, for instance, now a lot of record labels won't even look at you. They won't take a meeting with you unless you have well over 1 million social media followers, Spotify numbers, TikTok, Instagram, all of that. They want you to have millions of followers already, basically already be famous before they'll even take a look at you. So now that is a double-edged sword, or I guess there's a silver lining, because, you can do a lot independently now. You don't need a record label to get your music out there and to be successful. You can do it on your own if you, follow the right formulas and figure it out. But it's still not guaranteed. It's still hard work, and, honestly, kind of, I think, even harder because there is so much coming at people, the consumer. When you open your TikTok, you're gonna see at least 10 artists, releasing new music, and maybe some you've never even heard of before. And that's just what the industry is now. It's not really artists anymore. You have to be an influencer first so that you can get people's attention, because that's what it's all about, is getting attention so that you can make more money. And that's the, kind of the sad truth, but that's what it's turned into. It's, I don't ever want to harp on it too much, but it is definitely harder for females. I mean, when you look at the sheer fact that at most venues, if you're an up and coming or mid-level female artist, it's just extremely hard to sell as many tickets as a man. I mean, it just is. I don't know why. I don't know why, people don't come out to see females as much as they do the guys, but that's what we fight against. And it just makes no sense. I mean, unless you're a Carrie Underwood or a Miranda Lambert, they're selling out arenas. But unless you're that level, like people just, you have to really, really push it to get your tickets sold. And so I'm seeing so many other female artists just killing it at that. And that's why you see so many female artists on TikTok, just trying to reach people, just trying to do whatever they can to get a fan base. And I think that has been really helpful. I'm seeing a lot of other female artists out there killing it at their live shows because they're having people show up based on their social media videos and all that. And so it's a blessing and a curse. But I just think that makes us all the more powerful of performers, because we're having to go through the heartbreak of, sometimes you go to a room and there's nobody there, like nobody shows up, or you're in a crowded room, but nobody's paying attention to you. Like you're basically background noise. But fighting through that and pushing through that just for the love of what you do and for the art is what makes it worth it. And, that's where the cream of the crop, like it'll rise to the top because I mean, you wouldn't do this if you don't love it. So that's cool to see from a lot of the female artists out there.
Right. Definitely a lot of character building. So what advice would you give to an emerging female artist?
Man, I would say try, man, there's so much. There's so much. But I would say if you're a person that feeds off the energy of a crowd, try not to take it personal when people aren't paying attention, or when maybe your song that you're singing doesn't touch everybody in the room, or you don't think anybody's listening, because there's somebody listening. There's always somebody, whether you know it or not. And I still have to tell myself this because, man, it is heartbreaking to pour your song out and to pour your heart out to people and to feel like it's not making any sort of difference. So that's what I would say, is just try not to take it personal and keep going, because the world needs what females have to offer and have to say. Nothing against the guys. There are a lot of guys out there making amazing music, but I just sympathize with what my fellow females are going through.
Yeah. And it's something about a woman's perspective that hits a little better to us women than it does from a guy. So I totally get that.
Sure.
Holly's journey after The Voice has been nothing short of inspiring. Chart-topping singles, major awards, and a relentless passion for Texas country music. But beyond the stage and the spotlight, there's so much more to her story. Stay with us, because this next part is where Holly's true purpose shines. Welcome back. We've heard about Holly Tucker's rise to fame and her journey in the Texas country music scene. But there's so much more to her story. In this segment, we're going beyond the music to talk about her faith and about the Holly Tucker beyond the spotlight. So now some fun stuff. Tell us about your current role as a worship leader. That's got to be a blast.
It really is. It's been one of the biggest blessings that God has put in my life lately. I accepted this worship pastor position about a year and a half ago. I started August of 2023, and I was not looking to become a worship pastor, a worship leader, anything like that. My dad has been a worship minister for most of my life, like interim somewhere, and always helping out a church, just trying to serve in that way. And I loved watching him do it, but I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do country music full time. And I am, and I was, but back in 2023, after COVID, it really changed everything. Like I said, live shows were always kind of hard, for females and getting people out, but COVID really made it even worse. And so I was doing live shows, but I was just getting discouraged. I would I would do that thing that I was talking about where, I would book shows and I would promote them and then, nobody would show up or nobody would care. And it was just really hard. It was starting to wear on me. And I was on the road with one of my band members, and he was actually applying for several worship leader positions himself. And he had narrowed it down to two. And he ended up going with an option that was out of the state. So then this other option of a worship pastor position was still open. And I kind of jokingly said to him, I was like, hey, so do you think they might be interested in a female worship leader? And, he said, oh yeah, they would. They're a non-denominational church. Like they love women in leadership and they would love to have you come and talk to them. So he set us up and we started talking, and I went and visited the church several times just to make sure that it was going to be a good fit. And that's how it came about. I accepted the position, and lucky for me, I've had a lot of great worship leader mentors over the last 30 years of my life. I've had my last worship minister at my home church in Waco. He's won, several Dove Awards. So it's good to have mentors like that who have been so far into the worship atmosphere of things. And so I've gotten to learn from that and how you organize all of that. And like I said, it's just been a really big blessing. So I'm excited to continue it. And you never know what doors that God's going to open. So you just better be willing to walk through them when he does.
You better. You're going to regret it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of those skills that you have learned?
Well, I've definitely learned how to organize a team, everybody's schedules. I have to, so the way that I do things at my church is I like to have a rotating band and singers so that I can use a lot of different people and a lot of different voices and talents, and nobody ever gets burnout. Because I see a lot of churches that have the same band and the same singers week after week after week. And while that does build consistency, it also burns people out. And then what are you going to do when they get sick or when, they have an extended leave of absence? Then you're left with nobody. So I definitely have learned how to build a team, how to organize and manage a team, how to put different set lists together each week based on whatever message that we're going to hear. And I really just try to each week create an atmosphere. I mean, the Lord is going to be there no matter what. Like the Holy Spirit always shows up, but I want to set us up for success. I want to use the intuition and the guiding that God's given me in order to create that atmosphere that really touches people and moves people and allows God to work. So it's been really cool.
What has been the biggest surprise blessing you experienced in this role?
I think seeing how God is taking what I expected was going to happen with my life and not only altering it, but making it better than I could have imagined. Like, no, I'm not Taylor Swift. I'm not selling out arenas, but I do still get to do the country music that I love. I get to write it and I get to create it and I get to be gone when I need to be. My church is very understanding about that because they view it as part of my ministry that I'm going out there and reaching people. And also, like I said, I never wanted to be a worship pastor. That was not something that I was seeking, but I just, the door opened and I walked through it to kind of see, okay, is this going to be for me? And God really just, I've always been somebody that has liked to have control in my situation. I don't like to not know what's coming. I don't like the unexpected. I like safety and security and good feelings. And so God pushing me into this path that I didn't see for myself, and yet blessing me so richly with it, just spiritually as well. I mean, I've made so many new friendships. I have a community now of people that, I was in a really big church before, and I did kind of struggle a little bit to find community, people that I could live everyday life with and share struggles with. And, I have my family. I've always had my family, but it's really nice to have a church family now that I am so close with. And so I know that was a long answer, but
No, that's great.
but yeah, God has just turned all of my expectations into unexpected bigger blessings.
Countless blessings, I'm sure. Yeah. All right. So here's some fun, quirky questions. If you weren't a musician, what would you be doing?
That's a really hard question. I think, strangely enough, I think I may have been a writer, not a songwriter necessarily, because that's music, but I think I could have done really well with writing books, novels, like all of that kind of stuff. I just have always enjoyed that. So I might have ended up being a writer. I don't know.
That's cool. Yeah. You never know. But you're probably where you need to be.
Yeah, I can't ever see myself not doing music in some capacity. Like I know that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I will always chase that.
Yes. Yes. And we're glad you do. What's a surprising fact about you that fans might not know?
Well, so I am an animal lover. I don't know that that's any secret, but I particularly love dogs, and I love the mini Australian Shepherd breed. And so I don't really publicize it that much on my music, websites and all that, but I love the breed so much that I actually do some breeding myself about once every year or two. And I have a litter of puppies, and I try to find good homes for them, good loving homes that will do well with that breed. It's a very high energy breed, but the reason I do that is because I was going through a very hard time back in 2018, and God blessed me with a particular gig opportunity where I met this woman that was a mini Aussie breeder, and she could see that I was going through a really tough time, even though I was trying to hold it together. And she had a litter of puppies at that time, and she gifted me a puppy. And that puppy turned into being my absolute soul dog, my best friend. I love him so much. And he, mended my broken heart. He was there with me when I was going through grief and loss and just a lot of hard things back in 2018. And it just made me want to give that gift to other people. So I don't know, if it's that breed or if it's just him, but I like to think it's him and that lineage that I want to keep going. So that's why I do it. I know the shelters are crowded, and so I don't do it year round, but I want that to be a blessing to other people like it was to me. And yeah.
So what's currently on your playlist? Do you listen to music when you work out? Do you listen to music in the vehicle?
A lot of times when I work out, I like to throw on The Office on Netflix. So it's my favorite show of all time. So I've watched it like, I don't know, 20 something times, but that's beside the point. Music. Yeah. So because I'm a worship pastor, I have to listen, and I want to listen to a lot of worship music. I'm always looking for new things to introduce to our congregation. So a lot of times I like to go on Apple Music or Spotify, and I like to go look at the what's new playlists within each genre. And I kind of just let that inspire me. And, a lot of times I discover new artists that way. So that's what I've been doing, especially lately. I've been going to all the new artist playlists and one that I've discovered in the last few years that I just absolutely love is Miss Emily Ann Roberts. And she is fantastic. She was actually also on The Voice with Team Blake a few seasons after I was on it. And she's currently on tour with him and she's doing really cool things. But I just love her and her spirit and her personality and her voice and her songs. And so, yeah, I like to listen to her a lot. And there's a bunch of new artists that are coming up that I could have lots of great things to say about, but she's one of my favorites.
Very cool. Very cool. Do you have any new music coming out this year?
I do. I already have some songs that I've got recorded and I'm just kind of waiting for the right time to release them. I'm looking at possibly an April release of one of my new songs that's going to be coming out, and it's surprisingly, I haven't released anything really faith-based yet as a single. I have faith-based songs on my albums, but this time I'm going to be releasing it to radio and pushing it out there on socials. And yeah, it's called Maker's Mark, and I'm really excited for it. So that one's definitely coming. Hopefully I'll have some more releases throughout the year. And then, in 2026, hopefully I can have a whole new album ready to go.
Ooh, no pressure.
A lot of work, but we can do it.
You got it. You got it, girl. So where can we see you if we want to see you performing live?
Currently, I don't have a ton booking my schedule in April, but it is still, early on in the year. So things kind of get booked more into the springtime and the summer. So right now I've got a couple of gigs one's in Mineral Wells, April 10th. That's going to be full band. I'm going to be at the Crazy Water Hotel. And then on April 11th, I'm going to be down in Galveston at a place called Yaga's Cafe. And then I'm really excited to be singing for the Texas Rangers again. I'm going to be doing the national anthem and God Bless America at the 7th inning stretch. And I've gotten to sing for the Texas Rangers now for about the last 5 or 6 years, every year. And they're super nice there. And I love getting to work with them. For whatever reason, last year was a really big year for national anthems for me. So I'm really hoping that 2025 continues that and that I get to do more and more of those because I love getting to honor our country with our anthem.
That's so cool. So tell us about the Holly Jolly Christmas shows in December.
Yeah, I know that that's already looking way into the, later into the year, but the Holly Jolly Christmas is something that I bring back every single year. I've done it for the last 6 or 7 years, always different. So basically, it's just a Christmas show, but it's not just any Christmas show. I like to, like I said, change it up every year. So one year I did a very intimate setting that was more acoustic with my parents. And we had like a fireside kind of living room sort of atmosphere in a theater. So that was really cool. And then last year I got to do 3 different show dates. I usually like to have them in theaters because it's more of a big production style show. So like last year I did it at the Hippodrome in Waco and the Beltonian Theater in Belton. And I try to typically do something in my hometown because people support me there and they come out and it's a really cool time. But then I try to get a little bit north and a little bit south as well. So that's what I'm looking into for 2025. I would love to play the Palace Theater in Grapevine because Grapevine is the Christmas capital of Texas, if you haven't heard. And they have tons of Christmas shows, tons of shopping, things to do. And it's, been nationally acclaimed. So I would love to make that a location for the Holly Jolly Christmas. But last year it was full band and we did a little bit of classic Christmas songs with a country twist. And then we did some worship music and we kind of blended the two. So this year I'm going to be changing it up once again, just so people don't get bored and so that they keep coming back. So I don't know, we might do some sort of crazy theme like a Motown Christmas or like an oldies Christmas or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Holly, thank you for sharing your story with us. From the voice to the heart of Texas country. Holly Tucker has shown us what passion, perseverance, and purpose look like. Her journey is a testament to staying true to your roots while chasing your dreams, and her impact goes far beyond music. Until next time, take care and keep chasing what sets your soul on fire. For just $49.99 a year, you can become a full-access subscriber to the Texas Women in Music blog, podcast, and magazine, which unlocks a treasure trove of exclusive content, offering unparalleled insights and behind-the-scenes access to your favorite musicians and industry professionals who are from Texas, live in Texas, or perform in Texas. Full-access subscribers have exclusive access to our blog posts, monthly magazine editions, and podcast episodes. Full-access subscribers will also have the opportunity to engage with our members-only online community forums on Facebook and Discord, and will also be able to view exclusive live and pre-recorded video content on our YouTube and Twitch channels. The Texas Women in Music podcast is part of the Dewey Stellai Media family, a dynamic multimedia company that produces podcasts, monthly magazine editions, and blogs offering diverse, in-depth content to inform, entertain, and inspire audiences across multiple platforms. Visit us at www.texaswomeninmusic.com. I'm your host, Shauna Rose. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay curious, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time.